Good evening, everybody. My name is Max Farrow, and welcome to the Dex Trader webinar here on Thursday, August 24th. Today's webinar is hosted by myself, of course, me, Max Farrow. And if some of you are here and you're brand new, maybe this is your first live one, maybe you've watched a bunch of videos, maybe you've seen an advertisement or something, you're in search of something, and I want to help guide you through this process and let you know a little bit about us. But also, if you're a new customer, if you're a new investor in our company, I want for you to have this opportunity too, to see some things being done in action and see where some things are at, and what we do in our mentality and how we like to treat new people when they come on. Okay. Before we get into anything about money or success and all that stuff, please keep in mind that by law we have to show it's just good form to have something like that. I always give the lawyers crap about having to read all this stuff, but I'm not going to read it. But it does come down to a couple of things. Education is very important to us, that this is for your education. If you don't, please, and please don't trade live until you're 100% trained. You know exactly what you're doing. I don't care if you think you know already what you're doing. Any new signal system that you try out, you better be trading demo, and practicing. Don't be a fool. Okay, if you're here to make it work, we care about your success. We want you to be successful, but you won't be successful making foolhardy mistakes like trading live your first week. All right. So as I introduced, my name is Max Farrow. For you new people who don't know me, I'm the senior trader and one of the owners of Our City Investments and Dex Trader itself. Dex Signals, Dex Indicators, Dex Effects Worlds. There's four major parts of this company. Don't feel overwhelmed. We are all about finding where you belong, right? I found that if I just had one small little thing that I'd done, there's only a handful of people I could help. And my goal is to help as many people as possible reach their idea of success, whether it be about money, about just being able to trade or working from home or doing those things. I'm here for you. Okay, all you have to do is pick up a phone. You can call the company. You can be online. You can be anywhere, right? You can email us. You can we're in the chat room. There's like 50,000 ways to be able to talk to us, right? A little bit more about myself. I've been trading now full time for 4 years. Okay, I make personally with doing everything that we do about $6,000 to $8,000 a month, and I only trade about maybe up to 4 times a day. Right, and I don't trade every day of the week. Sometimes I'll trade Sunday night, and I'll trade that for Friday morning. But I'll trade a couple of times during the week. I don't trade very many times, but I trade a lot of contracts. Right? Why? Because my balance is big. Yes. No, I'm not showing off. I'm just telling you that it's taken me some time to build up my balance to get to that point. And it is about volume. First consistency, then about volume to get your goal. You'll hear about a lot of that inside these letters called CVG, and let's do a V there, not a U. CUG. Yeah, what is CUG? But CVG, right? Consistency plus volume equals goal. And what this comes down to is my flux capacitor moment of time, right? This is where I have found that if I get consistent, I can simply add volume to get to my goals. I don't have to work 50 hours a day like I was doing. I was doing 16, 17 hours a day. If it wasn't fully trading at that time, it was doing something about trading, researching data requirements, those kind of things, and it really killed me. It did. It got me to a point where I was crazy. One day, I was talking to my brother. I was deathly ill, and it was back in the beginning of the year, and I said, you know what, I have a couple of pairs that are very consistent for me. Let me just add some volume, and I'll get to our goal for the day, because we had strict goals we wanted to make every day, and that became the acronym. Today we're going to talk about trading the daily signals and what our signals are. I'll give you a little brief overview of what all of them are, and then show you how I trade them and how I validate them and verify them. Yes, you are going to get practical information tonight. So sit back and enjoy. We're going to talk about trading the intraday and the NA intraday, which stands for news avoidance, right? News avoidance is very important. Now, I suggest always avoiding the news if you can stand it, but there are people who trade with the intradays. You take your gamble, but you better be good at diagnostic. You better be good at looking at charts. You better be good at understanding support and resistance, okay, what the MACD actually does, what it stands for, what it works with, all that stuff. You better be informed, because if you're going to take on trading the intradays, you'll see why. Trading the SR maxes. Now, SR stands for support and resistance. Max stands for me. Right. So the support and resistance maxes are all, it should have been called the MACD max, right? But I put support and resistance because there's another value in there that it uses. But it does so with the idea of scalping, and we'll talk about that here inside. Of course, and at the end, we're going to talk about working with risk. How much you need, what you need, where you're going to go, what you're going to do, how much money should you put in. I can't tell you all that, but what I can tell you is the ideas behind placing a certain amount of money in and why you should keep your risk balance as much as you possibly can in there, but also trade with as less as possible, okay? And how to keep it even and create a process for yourself called the incremental crawl, and we'll talk about that tonight. All right. So before I get into each one of the trading styles and what we do with each one, I'm going to turn off we're going to go into the signals here just 1 second here. My 5-minute signal system is firing off on me all those dings. I don't know if you guys can hear them through my headphones, where signals firing off for our 5 minutes, which we'll show at the end of the webinar here. It's not a 5 minutes webinar tonight, but I will show those. But let me get over to our page here so you can see. Basically, when you sign up, you'll be able to log into your member portal, but under your signals tab, you'll see Dex Trader 2.0. This is a little thing we put together just to house the signals and all your tools that you may need. Our signal system itself is, let me put down our chat room there. There's our chat room for in case you have any questions. But we have 4 sets of main signals: the dailies, the intradays, what we described before, the NA intradays, the news avoidance, and the SR maxes. Each one has its little clickable tab there that takes you over to that process. Now, the dailies and all of the systems have an open time, a close time. So this would be when the signal came out. This would be when the signal should close, your expiry on Nadex, and your asset, that it is, the direction we call, and the open price. Now remember, this is not what the current price is. Okay, this is for what we refer to the open price or the range, which means especially on a daily signal, you should have a statement in there for this particular pair. Now, when the statement is pulled from that price, it has a 94% success rate, right? And then once the signal finishes at the expiry time, it closes out the price and it puts the price what it was at the time, gives it a winning or losing percentage, and shows you how many pips was in the difference. All this information is relative to learning how to trade the daily signal. Why? Because it's data, right? Don't be ridiculous. You just don't want to come in and follow these signals with no information. You want to have data. And that's where the next part comes in, the Data Processing Center, the DPC. The DPC breaks down the dailies and intradays, NA intradays, and SR maxes into usable information. Let's just pretend you're trading right now at 7 o'clock. And at 7 o'clock, you want to know, what's my success rate on the Audi JPY for the day? Well, simply click the Audi JPY, and it'll tell you the last 5 trades have been 100%. Nanny, nanny, boo-boo, right? So it'll also tell you things like the best session, the best hour of the day, the worst hour. Well, that's 2000. That's 8 o'clock. I probably won't trade that one, right? So you keep that in mind. You had 80%, but you still had an 87% success rate there. You can also filter it down to depending on which ones you're doing, the NA intradays, which pair has the best success rate. So if you click on NA intradays, you can look at what pair over the last week has given me the most success rate. Now, you wouldn't stop with your information there. The signals page itself has a good amount of information. How many pips it's gone by. So you could click on an asset, filter it all out, and see that all the USD JPYs are there now. And you could say, oh, wow, all right, well, when it wins pretty good. There's not one, there's one under 16. Like if you wanted to do a choke up, which we'll refer to in the dailies here in just a minute. If you wanted to come up a trade, come up a line on the statements to get a better trade value, you can see how many times that has it won over 20 pips, since they're 20 pips in distance. I'll explain more of that in detail in a moment. But the system itself has the filtering process here. You can also filter. Of course, you can turn your sound on and off. But you can put in the winning percentage. You can put in the asset. Maybe I just want to look at all the USDs. So this is very important information because this becomes a tool. I could see how many times did the buy win over the sell side. And again, you could do this with every single one of the assets. You could break it down just like that. And why is that so important? You'll find out here soon enough why this becomes a tool, almost as an indicator, because remember, data, does anybody here in the room know what back testing is? Has anybody ever back tested anything? Has any signal company that you have ever worked with ever gave you the availability to look at the back test for their own signals? No. They don't want you to know what the success rate is. Are you kidding me? This is where transparency comes to play. This is what's so important about our signal process. And by the way, did you look how many signals there were? Yeah, let me refresh the page here. Reload. I could just clear the sorting, but I just don't want to. I just want to make sure absolutely you can kind of see this thing moving on its own. Let's see, the 24th. This is the dailies. I'm going to expand it down to 100 records. Here we go, right here. So right from about here, it looks like about 50 dailies had come out today. Intradays. Let's look at that. 1, 2, 4. There's 25. So right around 30 intradays have come out, and the day's not finished. Intradays won't be as many because we're avoiding the news. So yeah, we only have about 20 intradays that came out. So now we're still sitting up almost close to 100. And of course, SR maxes for the day. Yeah, so there's 25, and there's also about 30 signals that came out as well. So in a particular day, you can have between 100 to 150, maybe even 200 signals that come out. And that process gives you 4 sessions to be able to trade in. Now, depending on which ones you decide to use, you could use dailies, intradays, and intradays or SR maxes. You could use the dailies throughout the day, or maybe your favorite session in the morning. Set them and forget them, put your working orders on and walk away. Do a little bit of research, see how well the market's going. Is there any news? You have to do some work to it, but you set them and forget them. The intradays, you might be sitting in front of your computer for an hour or two as things fold and unfold. That's not a problem. Once you start training yourself on how to be in front of the computer to be able to do this, you can shorten that time down, knowing that the signals only come out at the top of the hour and 15 minutes after the hour. You don't have to sit there for the other 45 minutes unless you're looking to scalp out at that point. It's best not to sit and watch them completely unless you're trading the SR maxes, which this is the scalper's heaven. This gives you a 2-hour block to be able to get in and get out. And once your DEX MACD crosses over in the opposite direction of your trade, to get out of Dodge immediately. That gives you the process. And I'll explain a little bit of that more here in just a second. But at this point, there is a tremendous amount of information under the dailies. We know that the signals come out 6 times a day. Now, why do they come out 6 times a day? Well, because on Nadex, the dailies come out 6 times a day. It only has 5 here right now because one has come out already. Okay, the 7 p.m. was just released 15 minutes ago. Here in a little while, another 7 p.m. will come up, and you'll see a 7 p.m. up here. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they all correspond with the same expiries that we have on the system. Now, we have and track signals for all 10 pairs that are on Nadex for that daily. Now, the signal will come out about 2 to 2.5 hours prior to the daily being needed to expire. Okay, so you have about 2.5 hours of work or of time that it's not like the signal comes out, you got to jump in immediately. You're gonna focus on a few things first. Now, most people when they trade in the dailies, they're like, and this is where a lot of people get mixed up in the very beginning. The daily comes out and they see that they don't understand what a range trade is. Now, a range trade, a range signal, means that pair coming out at 1.10 when, remember when I showed you the open price? Okay, this open price being set at that is really up here. Usually the current market is right around down here if it's a sell, right? If this was a sell, let's just pretend that this is, we won't even give this a asset name. We're just going to say 1.100 to make it easy for everybody. Okay, but if we said this was for a sell, the asset's going to be down here. The current price is going to be down here, right around anywhere between 15 to 40 pips. I know that sounds like a lot, right? But it's not really. Not especially in a daily that's going to be moving over a 2.5, 3 hour period. And why do we do this? We do this for one particular reason, because there's a thing called retracement. And this is what really comes down to. We put the signal out. You put a working order in for this number, because when this number gets filled, it wins 94+%, right? In some cases, 97%. What we're looking to do is for the price of the pair to come back into retracement area and hit this zone in here, because in this zone, that working order is going to get picked up, right? It's a pending order or a work limit order or whatever you want to call it, right? So it's going to get picked up because the market price is going to shift enough to get to what the price you're going to have on it. We show you how to do that inside. So how many times does this happen? Well, this happens about 30 to 40% depending on the pair. So when it gets filled, it's going to fill, right? Now, if it gets picked up under this 30, 40%, under this 30 or 40%, it's going to lose sometimes. Why? Because losers will get picked up as well, right? But losers have a way to kind of scoff them out, to see where they're at, see which ones are really about, is this one just going to keep going? Is there a certain limit that I could get out at? Usually with a daily, it's going to, if it does go out of the money, if it goes above the number that it's on there, and if it starts to go into another zone completely, another 20 pips from there, you're pretty much, sorry, SOL. You're going to lose this one. But we teach you inside how to take those losses and what to do with them at that point. Now, on the daily, there's also knowing your support and resistance and looking at a 4-hour chart. So when I have a daily that first comes firing out, let's go look at the dailies real quick so you can see. Let me pop one on here. The next daily, because the dailies just fired off, there's no active dailies that are happening, but the ones that were happening at the for the Euro, Great Britain pound, let's look at that. The sell at 92.40. You might have to increase your screens if you're watching this after the fact. Make sure that you're in high def. That's too high def. Let me go to the Euro, Great pound. Try to move this over some so you guys can see. I'll scope in. Now, when the signal came out, this isn't a practical one to use because it's already been filled, but it's already been closed out. But it was up around here. This is where the signal fired off at up here, okay? And you can immediately see there's a support line here. I'm using our support and resistance indicator and our Dex MACD indicator from dexindicators.net, which you can get from the system inside. Also a very hefty discount for them as well, and get a nice little bundle. But when the signal came out at 4 o'clock, let's see here, 2300 right there, okay, you could see that it was easily about 14 pips away from that process. Now, the market was sideways, so we weren't really going to be able to get into a good trade with this. But remember, when you first get the signal, this is what you're doing. You're coming here and looking, right? Because the signal is what we refer to as an event. What would you do to assess, is that event tradable? Well, if you're just beginning, you could look at this process and say, well, I'm pretty far off. I'm going to put this working order up here at the 92.40 that it's requesting, okay? But I'm looking back now, and if I look left a little bit, which means looking back into the history of things, I could see some other support lines in here. I could see 92.40s there, but I can also see 92.20 in here. Now that's 20 pips different from what the signal came out. So if I could do 92.20, which we refer to as choking up, what would that look like? Well, I would simply go back over to the Dex Trader network. I would isolate the Euro Great Britain pound. I would look at sells only, because that's the movement power of a sell. The movement power on a sell is different than the movement power on a buy. Do we all agree with that? Okay. And I would look at this and I would say to myself, okay, if the Euro Great Britain pound has moved a tremendous amount over the last 25 trades, more than 20 pips, then I can move up 20 pips to get a better market price. Well, here's one for 21 pips, 44, 15, 18, 17. So there's 3 in a row. Immediately it's saying it could be under, could be under, could be under, could be under, could be over. And what I'm looking for is something more than 50%, of course, but into a percentage amount that you feel comfortable with. Okay? At this time, I would look at this and say, I'm probably not going to choke up. Okay? I'm not going to choke up my price, because I'd rather not take the trade at all than risk losing my however much money you're buying it for, whether it's 80, 78, 62, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you're looking at the information here to see the value behind the signal. You're using the signal as another indicator, if you will, another tool. Use all the tool and the data that you have. I know this sounds confusing if you're first time trading, if you're just trying to figure stuff out, but don't worry. You'll learn how to begin to mix this up and start using the tools. You had to have a time that you never used one of the charts before, right? You probably didn't ever use the system on Nadex before, but you're learning it. And even if you're not learning it, if you're just starting to figure it out, we have plenty of things inside to help you with that. So using the support and resistance, using the MACD to help gauge a good trend value, and is it in a divergent side or a convergent side? And we show you how to read that Dex MACD inside. And that will also teach you, is the flow of the market just ebbing, or is it about to kind of flow down and come into a nice run here? If your Dex MACD is just kind of, your lines are all like in the center, it might be something that you really don't know. And not knowing, sometimes it's better not to trade. That's basically how you can use all the signals from this point. But the dailies are really beefy, because you can put a nice working order on and see that value. Also, you can trade through the news with it, but if you get news like right at the end, like if you're getting news at 10:30, I would say avoid, right? So avoid news that's right around 10:30. Also, a lot of news that it's like at 8:30, 9:30, and 10:30 really makes the dailies go a little crazy every once in a while. You shouldn't get too many of them that'll lose like 4 or 5 in a row. In fact, I don't think, if I go back and really look at the dailies, let me script to 100. One lost there, one lost there. That's a sea of green there. I don't know if you've seen that. Yeah, I don't see too many that lose more than 1 in a session. So not too bad. So if they do get filled, now unfortunately, okay, now remember too, you're also not going to be taking every single signal that comes over. Don't put 50 working orders. Don't do a euro and a euro USD and a euro JPY and a euro, because if one fails, they might all fail, but one part of it might fail. Okay, try to stay with your best pair, the highest success rate, the one that you like working with the best. Start learning and teaching yourself how to use some of the tools, but isolate what you should like to work with, right? Dailies are boring. They can be exciting. They be very profitable if you use them in one of the fashions that I just stated, but they can be very, very boring. Once you get good at them, they are very boring. For me, I don't watch them. I come in, I look my assessment, I look at my Dex MACD, I look at my support, I grab my 3 favorite pairs, and I go with it, right? Simple. All right, let's move on. Intraday and NA intraday. Basically, intraday signals are the 1-hour signals, right? A signal will come over at a particular time at the top of the hour or 15 minutes after the hour, and it will go, all right, you guessed it, to the top of the hour. Now, the catchy thing is that on Nadex, there's only an intraday that's 2 hours long. What do? Well, Simple. If the signal is for the expiry of 8 o'clock, you only use the 6 to 8. You don't worry about the 7 to 9 p.m. because it doesn't have it. You're looking for the expiry. All right. So on the signal itself, did I do that right? Yeah. On the signal itself for the intraday, just like the dailies, there's an open time. This is when the signal came out. A close time, this is the expiry, the asset, the direction, and the open price. Right now, we have the AUD USD on the sell pattern that is open. And being that it's 25 minutes after the hour and only came out 10 minutes ago, let's go have a look at it real quick. Now, the first thing I'll do is that I'll run over to Nadex and I'll see if there's a price on it, right? Because that's what you really want to do first. Before you do all the analytical stuff, whether or not you should choke up and all that, see if there's a good price on it right now. Sell for 79.04. 6 to 8 p.m. 79.04. And there's not. There's not a great price on it right now, $4, but on the very next one down, 4 pips away, because you got 79.06 and 79.02. Why isn't it exact? Well, we don't use the indicative price on our system. We use spot forex. So there might be a 2-pip difference in that direction because they use a average for the indicative. All right, so there might be a little bit of a difference there. Now, you can take that in consideration by adding 2 pips to your thing. So 79.04 and 79.06. This would be the one that I would go with. Now, you can place a working order on that by clicking on it and just attaching a price to it. Now, on the sell side, you got to make sure you're looking about the amount of profit margin one week. On the buy side, you got to do the opposite. It'll say how much you're going to spend for risk, right? So here, I only want to risk about 78 to get my 22. I know it doesn't seem like a lot of money, but if you try to do it anything more than that, your trades are really going to get to that point where it's going to have to fail for it to get to that point, right? Because you're going to almost fail or go to out the money. So $22 to $25 right in that area. Now, I'm not going to place that because even though that it doesn't have a good price on it right now, I'm going to go check some of my other tools. What do? I'm going to head over to my system here with my support and resistance. I'm going to look at some of my support and resistance values. There's 79.04. Why is that so good for me right now? That's 7,900. Well, a 0 at the end is very good on any pair on the support and resistance area. Okay, there's 79.06, another heavy support and resistance area. So I now feel comfortable coming back at 79.06, coming in and doing a 22, and I'll place a working order on. Now, if I'm going to trade intradays in this fashion, I'm also going to be taking into consideration my MACD, right? Because currently right now I have a very unresponsive MACD. It isn't a downward pattern here. We do have a trend heading down over this. I am looking at a couple support and resistance. Even if it does pop there, I can come up a market too and look at my support and resistance. There's 79.10, 79.08 right in that area. Okay. I can also see that there's, it's pretty convoluted. There's not a lot happening. Even if I scope in a little bit, I can kind of see some up and down, some small crossovers, but I can't guesstimate that. So that's something that this market, I'm revolving around the support and resistance side, but not getting into the market at the money, right? I'm not going to 79, 78, 98 and saying, okay, well, I'm going to get in here and hope that it does go down, right? That's a different type of trading. We just call that the Hail Mary 50-50 trading, right? I'm using a little bit of speculation with the 79.06, but I'm playing it safe by having a working order on. Now, if I'm going to trade this in that process, let me get over back to the webinar for a second. If I'm going to trade within that, I'm going to make sure that I'm using some of the process, right? If I'm trading just intraday, I want to apply another tool, which is investing.com. Right on the site, there's a news button, right? So if I'm going to use news, then I want to know what news I'm going to be using, right? I want to see how much the market has moved. I want to do my investigation. I want to look at the data. I want to see what was the history of this before. I want to look at the dates that are on the system and go back and look on my charts on those dates. I want to do my homework. If I'm going to push the limit of trading that news time, then I want to know the data, right? That's, oh boy, did I just lose you guys? Bummer. No, there you go. Okay, so you're back. My system just glitched because I got so much stuff happening on my computer right now. I do apologize. All right. Okay, so here's what I need from you folks, and I do apologize that this is about to happen, but I'm going to close down the webinar. You guys are going to still be there. I'm just going to close it off my page, restart my system, and come right back. 30 seconds at the max. I'll be right back. All right, there we go. Whew. I was nervous. All right, so, all right, there we go. All right, so the ending intradays, using investing.com and look at the news, look at the process, all again about data. And that's what it really does come back down to, is who has the best data? Who's going to be able to help you isolate the variables in the signals, use them as events, know what to look for, and know what to get to. The news avoidance system, I'm going to have to add my screen share again here. I love the folks over at Click Meeting. We don't have an affiliation with them or anything, but their system has been tried and true with us. You do get these bugs every once, please bear with me. Okay. So basically having the information for you is one of the most important things. Being able to find it, use it, learn from it. There's a tremendous amount of process behind the scenes that a lot of people don't know that we do. When we do the consults, we meet in the chat room. There's the traders chat room. You can ask questions of other traders. There's the news platform, the data processing, everything's inside. There's where the book of consult is, the market news, other data charts. There's our own data web-based charts. Maybe you don't like using MetaTrader 4 and you just want to use our own charts. Now, this is not per tick data. This is what we call time-based data. So 1 minute for each chart you're on. If you're on a 5 minute, it comes out every 5 minutes. On a 1 minute chart, every 1 minute, and so forth. But it has our support and resistance indicator embedded into it and our Dex MACD. This comes free with the system here. So you're not going to see per tick data, but you will get that per time data, but you'll get the results of the Dex MACD and those things pretty immediate. Also on the signals pages, there are charts already on the system, right? So with that, using news, using that process, the NA intradays already have taken in consideration. We use a special feature that prohibits our signal delivery system from putting out a signal when there is a 2 or 3 bull that's about to release. Sometimes weird impromptu news will slip through, so you still always have to double check. Okay, still keep an eye out to make sure that there's no news to it. So if so, you're going to use the NA intraday sort of the same way we've done everything else. You're seeing the redundant theme here, is that you're using support and resistance. You're looking at the levels. You isolate the data. First things first, you go over to Nadex. Is there a good price on it? If there's a good price on it, you may look at getting into it, but you might just want to keep that in consideration, that you have some charts up, you have some things up, and you're looking at a little bit of everything just to make sure that you're in the right trade, you're on the right signal, right? And that's where the flow comes in. You learn that flow inside by doing. I can only tell you so much. You have to, like tonight's webinar, this is designed just to kind of give you a feel for it. This is not your learning center. Your learning center is inside, Okay. Your learning center from orientations and signals training is all inside. It's a tremendous amount of stuff. Okay. That's just signals training. You then have what we call series training. And series training is the Nadex Ninja, if you want to learn about Nadex, getting in and getting out. MetaTrader Mayhem, learning about MetaTrader, of course. We kind of make the names pretty easy, right? Chart Chaser series, which is being released. We're still working on that. There's some other series that we're still finishing up, and I do apologize. But the Trader's Mind series is a really important one, too. If you're just starting out using Nadex and you want to learn how to trade and trade fast, but I won't say trade fast. You want to learn how to trade fast, right? Not to trade fast, but to learn how to trade quickly. Where instead of trading on daily, because if you try to trade on a daily, once a day, 3 times a day, you'll get some experience. It takes you about 1,000 trades to really get it underneath your belt and really hone like really good money in at that point. I would say about 1,000 trades for any trader, any system. On a daily, that would take you a year, right? Because you're doing 2 or 3 a day, 365 days, not even that, probably 300 days in trading. So you won't get a tremendous amount of experience overall. But with 5-minute trading, you could do 200 or 300 a day, right? And that's where you would really get the experience. We have a friend of ours, Mike Ficca, partner of the company, works very hard in 5-minute signals and systems. And he was doing, he did like 75 in the one day and like 50 the next, and it was like showing me all these things that he had done, and which was great. This is what got him to be a partner of the company. We had a woman who did there's like 125 in a day because she sat down from 8 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock at night. But learning how to trade, getting themselves that experience, doesn't mean it's for everybody, right? Now the 5-minute MDM is something different, which we'll talk about here sort of at the end. But let's get back into looking at the SR Maxes next. I did squirrel, and I do apologize. Let me get you back over. So we now know that the intradays are very powerful because they have these particular signals have some of the best money on them and some of the most consistent money on them, but they don't have the best. They're not going to be the best success rates. You're 84, 83, 82% success rates, right? Worst one, Euro JPY, is 78 there. Nothing really too much below that. Not too bad. But if you get in for good prices, if you get in for the 23 to 24, $25, $30, and those things, if you really pay attention to your pricing, you could do very well with these. Again, it's not flooding a time period of like all these ones that like at 12 o'clock noon. Would you get into every single one of these trades? The answer may be if you've isolated each one and looked at the data in each one, and each one gave you that warm and fuzzy, then yeah. But because there's a USD CAD and a USD CHF, I probably would only pick the best ratio one, right? In the room, I want to ask you a question, and maybe some of you can answer in the room. How many trades, and some of you know where I'm going with some of this, so if you know, you can still answer. But how many trades do you need a day for you to be successful? Can anybody in the room tell me? How many trades? What is a good number for you and on how many trades you need to be successful in your eyes? Ken says 1. That's pretty brazen, but yes, you could do it with 1. Jim Friction says 4 to 5. That's nice, Jim. That's a good one. Timothy says 3. Anybody else? Pretty much you got the idea here, right? You don't need very many. I didn't see anybody say 40, right? But how many of you are in there in a network going, well, I need to be able to make that money. I need to get my money on, right? Well, let me show you. It's never about, because I've seen some, because there's some of you that are here. Some people come in and they're practicing demo, right? And they're practicing their demo and they're like, here, let me put down 10 contracts. Oh, let me put 7 contracts on this one. Oh, I lost that one. Now let me put 14. I'm going to double down. No, this is not about gambling, right? We know we don't need very many trades to win in a day. Why? Because if Ken needs to make $300 and his average contract value is 30, right? He's buying them for a profit. He's buying them for $70 and he's making $30 when he wins, and he only has to win one a day. He has to win the one. He's going to research the shit out of it, right? You're going to pick the perfect signal. You're going to find the perfect signal to get into, whether it's a 2 hour, 1 hour, 3 hour, 5 minute, doesn't matter. And you're going to put 10 contracts down on that bad boy. So when you win it, you win 300, right? That's if you needed to win 300 for the day. If your goal was $300 a day, 20 days a month, $6,000, right? I did the math right. Now we're not including losses here, so this could fluctuate between 4 and 6. But let's look at who is Jim Frickson in there now. 4 to 5. What does Jim have to have in there to do that? Right? He can have a little less money on how much he's buying him for, but if he kept the same consistency there, if he does 4 to 5, let's just say he does 4. Let's take the 5 out of there. All right, that's what, 480 with 1 contract. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right. Okay, because every trade he's doing, he's winning $30. Now, if he did 2 contracts, sorry, that's over here. If he did 2 contracts with 4 to 5, 960. Get where that's going. Now times that by 20 and take that out to the next month. Same thing with Timothy. 3, 30. It's $90 a day. Right? With 1 contract. There's 2 contracts, is $180 a day, 3 contracts. And the consistency value to get to this is how much work do you need to do it? Well, Ken, if you really sat down in a system, do you not think you could find one really good winning trade, consistently do it? I think you could. I think if you used all the data that we have and all the process that we have, what do you think I do? I sit down in front of my computer when I make my time, and I call it the Einstein window. Has anybody ever heard this process before? The Einstein window is very, very easy to do. Usually it's when you first get up, you get your cup of coffee. It's whenever you're firing it the best. Don't argue with your family. Don't kick the dog. Don't go outside and fight with the neighbors or do anything else. Set yourself down to create your Einstein window. And what does that look like? You're awake. You're at it. You're not looking at Facebook. You don't have anything else. You have nothing but Nadex, MT4, and Dex Trader on, and you got them all in your window, and you're just sitting. This looks like a bad bank robbery guy. Sorry. But you got all your little windows up. These are the 3 things that you have: Nadex, your charts, or you can have our Dex data charts up there, whatever, right? Whatever combination. You could slide them to the side. You can have, one window like that and another window just behind, so you can flip back and forth. You can have all 3 windows up here. If you have, I don't know if you can see this, but Windows 10, I could slide it like that, click that, and boom, there I go. Can you guys see that okay? You see? So I can look at my process. I can filter down my trade. I can find 4 a day this way. I can find 4 a day this way because I know they're there. And when I really do my work, when I use the support and resistance, when I use my Dex MACD, I can find those 4 a day easy enough. And it's usually within the first 2 to 3 hours of the day. I might sit in front of my computer for 2 hours, but come on. I'm not here to give you the gold star system where you're going to come in and be able to follow. I'm going to give you 3 signals a day, and you're going to follow them, and you're going to win your money. Sorry, we don't do that. I'm going to give you that opportunity, because once you get it and you see it and you feel it and you grab onto it, there's no letting it go. You're on. Now the boring side, right? To catch the tiger, what happens when you finally catch it? What are you going to do? Step and repeat. That's what it comes down to, step and repeat. So the Einstein window is very clear. Come in, get to your 1 to 2 hours worth of time. Who would do this? Anybody in the room? If you settled your mind well enough to do this, get your Einstein window, when's the perfect time. Don't you come up with all your excuse later, right? Come up with your excuse later. Oh, I got to work from 4 to 7, and if I work from 4 to 7, if you take the kids from 3 to 4, oh, and you go watch the tiger and go park the minivan or do whatever it may be, but get your time in to get to your 3 or 4 trades, your 4 to 5 trades. I just showed you the pathway. 4 to 5 trades could get you to that 6,000 to 8,000. Who here could use $6,000 to $8,000 a month? I'd hate going down this line of, if you buy now, you're going to get 2 of them for free, that kind of stuff. This is not about the soapbox infomercial thing. But I don't think there's one single person here that would snob at this. If you did 2 to 4 hours a day, 2 to 4 hours a day, find 1 to 5 trades. To get to that kind of money. It can be done. It will take work. You will have to demo. You will have to lose. You will have to make mistakes, but do so in demo, not with your live money. Once you do that, how much money are we talking about, right? How much money are we talking about for you to do any of this? Well, let's just say you're in a package. Let's just say you're in a $150 package with us, right? Whatever it is. Okay, and it takes you 2 months to figure this out. 2 months to figure it out. That's $300, right? You're into us. And if you're working a full-time job, great for you. Congratulations. If you're not, you got to cost of living, right? You got to be able to live. You got to do that stuff. However much that is, that's your life, right? But your tools, $300 to get to this point. And then once you get to a point where you got it down, and you've demoed it out, and you're consistently getting to your 4 trades a day, now what do? You better go hunt the money in to get the deposit on at Nadex to get to that money. And what does that look like? Well, let's use the example of the $30 profit margin, right? You want to get $30 of profit. We can all kind of agree to that. Now remember, by law, I can't sit and tell you exactly what to put into Nadex or any trading stuff, but here's what it looks like and how it works if it's done in this direction. Okay, $30 a profit means $70 of risk. Let's not worry about fees. It's $1 in, $1 out, except on a loss, and it's $1 out or $1 in only. Okay, let's not worry about fees and all that stuff. So let's just look now, $70, right? So in order to buy that, you never want to risk more than 10% of your portfolio, especially on Nadex. You could do 5%, but you'll need a little bit more money. So what does that look like? Well, for one contract, you need to have at least $700 in your account. If you're just trading one contract, if you only want to make $30 a day, put $700 in your account. But then you lose one. If you lost your first one, you would kind of be breaking your own rule, right? Follow your rule. I usually like 5%, so this would be $1,400 in your account. See where this is going? So now you got to reverse engineer the numbers. If I need $30 times 4, so this is $120 a day, right? If I just did one contract. I did 4 trades throughout the day. Now, if I do them all at once, you're kind of gambling. You're kind of messing with that ratio. You got to figure that ratio out, right? If you're doing all 4 at once, that's not 4 contracts. Oh, and that's not 1 contract now. That's 4 contracts, right? So you can do up to 4 trades. So you have to play with this number. The more that this number is for your deposit or your amount that you're putting in or the amount that you have or the amount that you're depending on is how well you're going to do over time. Now, this does not mean to demo, and then immediately, like, you get to your consistency rate 1 month, you're like, all right, let's go throw 4 contracts on and go into live. No, start with 1 contract right from the beginning in your live account. As soon as you go live, start with your 1 contract, get up to a level, make a level up. I need to get to $800 profit margin, and then I'll go to 2 contracts. Then I'll go to $1,600 profit margin, and then I'll go to 3 contracts until you get to your number that is sustainable for your goal. I know this looks like hieroglyphics up here, but you guys are getting the gist. Is anybody in here who doesn't understand what I'm referring to and what I'm talking to? Do you see the breakdown and how easy it is once you sort of take away the spook of the numbers, right? Give yourself a pathway to be successful. It doesn't take very much, does it? The biggest thing it's going to take is the work for you to do it. This money is nothing, right? And I'm saying this not because it's our company, but that $300 to get to that point, because then it becomes ROI, right? Then it's like, if it's $150 a month and I'm making $6,000, I don't think that's too much of a problem. If it took you $300 to get there, what would you pay for that? What would you pay for that system to work for you? And that's where it is. I think personally, most people get lost behind the superficial numbers. You're always looking at the goal. Well, I need to make $6,000 a month. What are you prepared to do to get there? Well, I don't want to sit in front of my computer. I don't want a system that I have to look at. I want it all on my phone. And you're not looking to make $6,000 a month. If you are, go sell crack. Sorry, that was inappropriate. But it's about right. Well, I have to tell you, I want to be able to go into some more about the SR maxes and things like that. But again, it's really the redundancy of support and resistance. But we were getting a little bit long in the tooth, and I do apologize. I don't want to keep you too much longer than we already have right now. And I hope that some of you got some great information. For anybody that's here that has not bought into our system yet, okay, I want to give you a present for tonight. Our webinar on Tuesday, it was $50 off your first month, but it turned out to be 50% off, which was cool because I like surprises like that. 50% off your first month. Use the coupon code SUMMER17BASE for our base signals, and SUMMER17 all if you want everything. And what does everything look like? Let me show you real quick. Everything is the membership portal, the training, all of the processes, the signals themselves, the Dex Trader 2.0, which everything that I showed you here, and the Dex 5-minute MDMWB. Now, I'm only going to take a brief second to tell you what this is. I don't want to squirrel you and get you distracted. This is only a good system for you if you love trading 5-minute systems. Then just trade these. Don't trade anything else. Don't bother with anything else. Or you want to use this system on the 5 minutes to learn how to trade quickly. And the MDM stands for Mike DeWitt Max, right? So it doesn't really matter what it stands for, but the WB is the most important, which is web-based. No downloading programs, no downloading anything else. It's all the signals are right here on the page. The Dex MACD, the support and resistance, the signals, every single one of the pairs that Nadex offers, all right here. Has a chat room, has the rules section, has a journal platform in here that we track the trades that people do, and they show us the trades that they're doing so we can see their success. Has a very unique platform in there to be able to utilize, okay? All that's in the all-inclusive price, okay? So if you just want the base price here, you get 50% off. If you want 50% off the whole thing, it's there for you as well. Now, for all of you watching after the fact, and we'll put the, for all you people that are here in the room, stick around for the questions and answers phase. For all of you watching after the fact, I want to thank you for taking time. You got to this part of the video. You got some good information, I hope. You've seen some quick ways to assert the signals and validate the signals, knowing that they're a tool now. But for everybody else in the room, please stick around. For everybody else that's watching after the fact, thank you so much again for being here and being a customer of ours, or hopefully be a customer of ours. And we'll see you in the next webinar. Everybody else in the room, stick around for questions and answers. everybody that's watching, thank you again. And of course, trade well. I'm Max, and this is DexTrader.com.